Well, there's that familiar theme, and good Monday morning. Welcome to the Todd Veinotte Show from 95.7 News Radio Halifax. It's Steve Murphy of CTV News here with another of our Murphy Mondays. But before we get to that, I want to tell you I've been talking via text with the proprietor of the program, the man who normally occupies this studio, the man normally behind this microphone, Mr. Veinotte. And he wants you to know, in his own words, I'm recovering well from surgery and appreciate all of the support and well wishes. And Todd, you have a legion of people who are just itching for you to get back into this chair when you're ready to do so. So we're looking forward to the return of Todd Veinotte to News Radio 95.7. But Todd says he's doing well, and he does indeed appreciate all of the support and well wishes that he's hearing on this program with Dan Alstrand, Tuesdays to Fridays, and of course here on the Murphy Mondays. Well, we've got a lot to talk about here today, beginning with what will be actually the final council candidates on the hot seat before Election Day. That's because next week is Thanksgiving, of course. We have a great deal to be thankful for, including the right to vote, the right to express our opinions on programs like this one. This is free time for any and all of the 79 people who are running for mayor and council in the Halifax region. It is first come, first served at 405-6000. And I'd like to extend a special invitation to the candidates we have not yet heard from. That doesn't mean if we have heard from you that we can't hear from you again, because we can and we will. But we would like to hear from those who have not yet taken advantage of this free time broadcast. That would include the candidates for Mayor Andy Fillmore and Way Mason. I do know that Councillor Lovelace called here last week, not in this hour, but during the Veinotte Show with Dan Alstrand. We would like to hear from all of the candidates for mayor, for council, and we will get to as many of you as we can here between now and 11 o'clock. And then, as usual, we will throw open the lines for all comers and all subjects on Open Phones Monday. It's up to you to determine what we talk about between 11 and 12 o'clock. You might want to talk about municipal politics and the race for mayor and the issues that matter to you and the candidates you like. 2 weeks ago, of course, on this program, actually it was 3 weeks ago, because 2 weeks ago I had the misfortune of coming down with COVID-19, and Dan had to jump in here on very short notice and fill the chair that I am filling for Todd. Dan for Steve, for Dan for Todd. At any rate, so 3 weeks ago we had a very robust discussion in this hour about why people don't vote, particularly in municipal elections. We know that the turnout is usually a third to about 40%, which means somewhere between 2/3 and 6/10 of people do not vote. That's something you might want to talk about, or maybe not. Anything goes in the open hour at 11 o'clock, where it's up to you to decide the subject matter. Then at 12 o'clock, we're going to ask the question, how many elections would you like to have before Christmas? We're going to be joined by political scientist Laurie Turnbull to talk politics for lunch. Federal politics, provincial politics, federal politics. We might even get into some U.S. politics, time permitting. But on this side of the border, at least in this province, we could end up with 3 elections before the end of the year. If you think about it, we know we're going to the polls for municipal elections in just about 10 days from now. The federal Liberal minority government could fall, so there could be a federal election. The Premier has mused about an early provincial election. So do you want many elections before the end of the year? A federal election now, maybe a provincial election, or both? That's one of the things we could talk about at noon, and we will talk about it with Laurie Turnbull. And then at 12:30, we're going to be joined here live in the studio by the outgoing mayor of Halifax, Mike Savage, one last interview before the election. Now, though, council candidates on the hot seat. If you are running, if you want some free time, 405-6000. It's first come, first serve. Lines are very, very busy. Let's begin with council candidate William Breckenridge. Welcome to 95.7, William. Good morning.
Hi, Steve. How are you?
Doing well. How about yourself?
Super. Lots to do.
You've got quite a race going in the South End. Tell us about it.
For the South End, we have a total of 6 candidates running, and it's very exciting to be part of this. And for myself, you might be asking, Steve, why I'm running myself.
Yeah,
and,
why are you running, William? What is it you want to accomplish?
What I want to accomplish is care for my community, number one, Number two, use my past 15 years of municipal volunteer and community activism to get out there and take the action that we need. And I've already been working on things like housing with plans around my neighborhood of Smithville, where we've used ideas of taking individual single-family homes and turning them into multi-units when that time arises. And it's about repurposing and adding, let's retain our housing stock. And this is a very fundamental basis because the city has taken a very pro stance on demolition for a very long time now.
And what is your stance on demolition, William?
I don't think it should be occurring the way it has. I've mapped it out. I was the first person to actually take the demolition permits and map them out and see where that's going on. And that, Steve, is in the thousands.
Let me ask you a question, because this is something I moderated a mayoralty debate the other night with 4 of the candidates, and we spent a few minutes talking about where one draws the line between development and demolition. Where do you draw the line? How do you determine which of the buildings should be subject to demolition and which should be preserved?
To me, as someone who is a historian in research and has served actually on the Heritage Advisory Committee of the city and other stakeholder committees in regards to transportation and engaging with the community and being a chair of those kind of committees, I see that as that we have a process that needs to be followed, and we need to do an evaluation of the housing stock.
So you want to follow the existing process, but you don't want to change the process in any way?
I do want to change because there are some inadequacies with it, particularly around assessments that are based on 1980 structures that were put in when these assessments of housing stocks for, historic buildings and such were done. They need to be updated. And right now, those departments that are in charge of that are working on that. But we need to get staff in there to be more efficient and get those rolled out. And I myself have done research around hundreds of buildings around the city, and it has been central in helping understand that process and make the changes like under the center plan and the Housing Accelerator Fund to make staff say that we need to do this, we need to evaluate what we have. And that happened after World War II as well. They did an assessment of the housing stock.
Just before I let you go, and we are going to have to move along because the lines are very, very busy, which we're happy with, by the way. All council candidates now, 405-6000, this is your opportunity. Where are you briefly? Give us 30 seconds on homeless encampments and where you think they should be permitted and where they should not be permitted.
I think that, homeless encampments overall are wrong. They're inhumane, and they are not where we need to go. And where they need to be permitted or not permitted is that we need a real housing. We need effective collaboration, and government at current has failed our city and our citizens.
So are you saying no homeless encampments, no tent encampments?
I want to see real positive homes, building structures that are actually real engagement, where the provincial government has these sites and only half of them are being used.
All right.
And we need mental health and service addiction centers as well.
All right.
So that's where I stand with that.
I appreciate this. I think we're going to have to leave it there for now, William, because again, very, very busy, but we are glad to hear from you today. Very, very best of luck to you, sir. William Breckenridge running in the downtown South End area of the Halifax Regional Municipality in the elections coming up. And David Freit next. Tell us about you, David. Where are you running and why?
Hi, Steve. Well, I'm running in District 8. That's the north end of Halifax. I already did sort of, do this with Dan, sort of the basics of my platform and stuff. What I really wanted to discuss was homelessness.
Yes.
And actually how it's not a really difficult or expensive problem to solve if you think through it rationally.
Okay.
So the first, I think, is just to create a place or a shelter system that people who are sleeping rough actually want to go. I think the solution to that is an integrated tiny home / emergency shelter system. So you can think like, the Halifax Forum emergency shelter, that's fine to go to if you just need a place for a night or two. But as a long-term sort of proposition, that's not going to be very attractive. So what I think rather we should have is emergency shelters like that are the place to go tonight if you need a place to sleep, but they should also function as the gateway to a tiny home. So upon entering the emergency shelter system, sort of within a short order, following maybe a sort of trial or evaluation period to decide where you're best determined to go, you would then be given access to a tiny home. And I think for a lot of people sleeping outside, that would provide an incredible incentive.
Interesting idea.
Sort of
how quickly do you think we could have those tiny homes ready to go?
Well, I mean, since we are sort of importing them from the United States ready-made, I'm not sure what their sort of supply is, but I'm sure it could be ramped up, a source them else. I mean, I'd like to see us establish our own industry. But the sort of interesting thing about that is that when you work out the long-term average costs for a tiny shelter, a pallet shelter, it works out to about $9 a night. So, I mean, they're not actually expensive either. So there's about currently 160 people sleeping rough in Halifax. So if you say sort of 200 pallet shelters, $9 a night, that works out to something like $700,000 per year. So given the sort of visibility scope and the broad sort of negative consequences, both those sleeping outside and, those sort of dealing with the problems associated with tent communities, that's a fairly inexpensive, proposition. So, yeah, basically there's a newspaper article on the Lower Sackville pallet shelter when it was put in, and they discussed spending $630,000 for 19 shelters. That works out to about $33,000 per shelter over a 10-year period. That works out to the $900 a night. Now, where the situation gets a little more complicated is in the wraparound services. The same article, it's just Google, it'll come right up.
Sure.
Discusses a yearly $900,000 grant being provided by the provincial government to cover the wraparound services.
Mr. Fright, I want to jump in and ask you a question because, again, this is a very interesting idea. Do you think this is an idea that would be well supported by voters and people who live in our neighborhoods? Do people want to see these little houses popping up in basically their backyards?
Well, I mean, there's ways to think about that too, because I mean, you have the hard to house and sort of people suffering, serious addictions and mental health issues. You also have people who are just homeless because rents are high and they just can't afford a place to live. And many of those people actually even have jobs and stuff. So I think it depends on who and where.
Okay.
And there should be sort of effort put into that. But yeah, overwhelmingly, like most people recognize the sort of the problem of homelessness, I guess, but sort of are willing to actually pay to solve that problem. So I think, you would find a great deal of support for that.
All right, Mr. Fright, appreciate the call. Good luck to you on Election Day, sir. Thank you.
For sure. And I have the paper I wrote on that up on my website. So
okay, what is your web address, please?
Well, if you just Google David Fright, it should come up. But my web address is davidfright.northendhalifax.ca. Right. So thanks, Steve.
Thank you, David. David Fright running in District 8, north end of Halifax. He is one of the council candidates on the hot seat live on 95.7 News Radio Halifax. We're back in just a moment with more right here. Council candidates on the hot seat here. Lines open 902-405. 6,000 for anybody running for council or mayor like Pam Lovelace. Good morning, Councillor.
Hey, good morning, Steve. Nice to chat with you again.
Good to chat with you. How's it going out there on the campaign trail?
Oh, it's going great. It's amazing. I'm so inspired by all of the people who are paying attention, talking about voting, talking about issues with their neighbors and families and coworkers. I do hope people show up and vote on the 19th.
So do I. I find it interesting, too, that in the most recent research, and I'm not going to talk about the top line that says that Mr. Fillmore's way ahead because I think anecdotally people suspect that, but half of the people who were surveyed by MQO are not able to name any candidate for mayor. There are 16 of you. What explains that?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's really good news for our campaign in particular. That means that they're not interested in paying attention to the Liberal member of Parliament, which is good for us because we think that we've got a great opportunity to actually engage with those undecided voters who maybe are not yet paying attention. But as people start voting and polls open, there'll be more and more opportunity to engage in the process, to learn more about the candidates, to see about the candidates actually on their website or social media and so on. So we don't believe that Andy Fillmore has a slam dunk here. We're going to work really hard to push him out because we believe he's bad for HRM, and that's why I'm running against him.
You believe he's bad for HRM?
Yeah, I do. So he's been focused over the last 10 years as a member of Parliament for Halifax, while since 2015, when he was elected, we saw homelessness increase by 500% in our municipality. And that's why I believe he's not a good choice for HRM. He hasn't been paying any attention or focused on the humanitarian crisis on our streets. we've been paying attention. I have, as a counselor, I've been focused on building a lived experience advisory for council, creating a memorandum of understanding with the province, really focused on finding new approaches to support those who are being pushed out of housing and those who are experiencing precarity of housing. So I'm focused on making sure we address the homelessness crisis and actually find rapid rehousing ASAP for those who are in tents so that they're not spending another winter outside.
Councillor, not to be quarrelsome, but you have, as you've pointed out, had 4 years to deal with the housing crisis and all these other issues that we're now talking about. You and your colleagues on the current council have not been able to do this either.
Well, we have actually. So we've got a better working relationship with the province. We're seeing tiny homes being built and people being housed. We are seeing the numbers of people in tents dropping. We're also seeing a better opportunity for the social services sector to actually scale up. We're seeing more and more people engaged as community navigators. We're seeing more services available for people who need it. And we're also seeing changes within the mental health and addictions department. So just, during my term, the provincial government enacted and created an addictions and mental health division of their government. So we are seeing quite a bit of headway, but again, going back to the lack of action by the federal government, that health transfer funding for mental health and housing is imperative because housing is healthcare. And unfortunately, we just haven't seen the federal Liberals really do enough to support those who are experiencing extreme poverty.
Councillor, we appreciate your time. There are a lot of candidates on the line, including a number of people running for mayor. So we're going to get to them. We appreciate your time today.
Wonderful. Thanks. You have a great day, Steve.
You as well. Councillor Pam Lovelace. Vote Lovelace. There you have a little, that's a free-time political advertisement from Councillor Lovelace, candidate for mayor. Dave Boyd, you're a candidate for mayor. How is it going out on the trail for you?
It's wonderful. The reception is wonderful. I've been to a lot of senior citizens' homes, and that's where I'm focusing right now the last few weeks on veterans who have done so much for our country. And I'm not here to knock anyone down who's running for office. I think that it's great, but I think that people need a different approach. And one thing that really upsets me is the fact that we have 16 candidates, and all you hear about is the top three. They get all the media coverage. Other than this station, I think you guys done a great job by being very impartial and very open to all candidates. And I think we can't keep knocking the other guy down. We're not America. We're not like the States. So we got to realize that every candidate is good. And I think if someone did a good job at his position, he should stay in the federal politics and stay out of our political politics at the municipal level. I think he's done a great job. I think a lot of these people have. Our former mayor done an excellent job. I love the guy. But the fact is, it's time for a change from a different background. I come from the background as a cab driver. At the pulse of the community, I think it's time for different ideas because we've shown that these career politicians are not getting anywhere. And that's mainly what I'm saying is it's time to bring attention to the other candidates and also realize we need to start thinking outside the box, and that's what I'm here for. Mr.
Boyd, give us a couple of your original ideas, new ideas, that you would like to bring into the public forum as mayor.
Well, I've seen how the homeless problem is, and we got to also look at other the redesigning how we have the homeless. A friend of mine who works in the military said you have tent, you would have 20 guys to a tent, and they'd have a shared washroom, clean area. Somebody say, we don't get our privacy. We only have to put our clothes in a small locker. But this is maybe an option. This is temporary. We don't want to have people permanently live in these tiny houses either. We will have to look at bigger solutions, finding other ways directly from the people. Let's ask the people homeless, what would you like? How can we make things better for you?
Mm-hmm. And is that not being done now?
I don't see them putting any bunk housing. They want to go to tiny housing or tents. There's no intermediate help, and I think this we need to look at. People tell me all the time in my cab that we want to help these people. We don't want to see that. I have homeless people that in my cab as well,
yes,
or unhoused. I don't like using the word homeless. I like using unhoused.
But you're talking about bunk house. You're talking about barracks style housing.
Yes, and no one's even looked at that, addressed it at all.
Do you think homeless people would be prepared to accept that?
Well, I think it would be, one of the options. We should look at all options out there for people.
All right. We're going to let you go. We have more candidates to talk to, more candidates for mayor, including Greg Frampton. Good morning, Mr. Frampton. Are you with me?
Steve, how are you?
Doing well.
Hi.
How are you doing out there in the campaign trail?
Oh, great. I wanted to talk about municipal income tax. There's been a lot of talk about that. That's where the city will charge you income tax. So there's a lot of buzz about that. I know that Way Mason and them, they kind of allude to it, but nobody has been asked that question. I haven't been able to go to the debates. I wasn't invited. So I think that's a question that they have to pledge they're either going to do it or not do it.
Would you do it?
We need to know. No, I'm against that. No way. Also, I was noting that the Halifax plan and the mobility plan, I want to cancel that. They want to spend $809 million over 4 years, and the budget is just about $1 billion. So that's quite a savings that we would have in taxes. The mobility plan includes the bike lanes and the Housing Accelerator Fund. Most people don't know that has eliminated R1 single-family zones. So developers can go in and buy a piece of land next to your house, tear it down, and put a 5-story building up.
And you would put a stop to that?
Yes. All these problems were caused by the Trudeau government with too much immigration and overspending during COVID. I guess you're going to want to know about the pallet shacks, right?
Sure.
$37 million. They didn't even build them in Canada. They built them in the United States. Why didn't they employ people here to build them?
Well, is anybody in this country building pallet housing? I don't know the answer to that question. I know that the ones we have purchased have come from the United States, so far as I know.
Well, there's a lot of carpenters here, and it's not a very it's a small building. I'm sure people could build.
So build them here.
And put people.
Build them here.
But I mean, I think there should be expiry dates on the pallet shacks. The province did that. You can check out my site, mayorgreg.com. I got some details on that from the manufacturer, how they see it as a community and to rehabilitate people, and that's
All right.
good. But I think there's better ways to address that rather than pallet shacks. I mean,
and what would be the better ways?
Well, I'm sure there's some buildings that they could renovate, vacant spaces that the Department of Municipal Affairs could rent and fit up temporarily for housing, rather than build these pallet shacks. I mean, $37 million for pallet shacks. I'm sure there's some warehouses or these old schools downtown. I mean, I'm sure they're fit enough to install power. The water's there. They could have fit them up and make it like mini hotels. So,
all right, Mr. Frampton, we appreciate your call. Good luck to you, sir.
Thanks. Check out my website, mayorgreg.ca. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Frampton. Next is Robert Holden, who's a council candidate. And Robert, you've been holding for a while. Thanks for doing that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Tell us about yourself and your candidacy, if you would.
Yeah, so my professional experience, I've been a project manager, a professional agent, event producer, promoter.
Yep.
On the board of directors for Music Nova Scotia, sponsor representative for a 5-year strategic project, operations analyst, representative for owners of intellectual property, trust branch manager, and I've drove the bus in HRM for 5 years. Currently a small business owner. And what I'd like to talk about is the elephant in the room, when it comes to all these symptoms, the problems that we're discussing in homelessness and affordability and the lack of doctors, lack of service, lack of infrastructure, and that's immigration or migration. Starting in 2021, we had a real push on immigration, and I think that the federal, provincial, and municipal government need to come to an understanding of what equilibrium would be, so that we're not overwhelming everything and causing extreme increases in costs and lack of affordability.
It does seem the federal government is taking some steps to curtail immigration. Certainly a few of the things that have been announced lately will result in fewer people coming into the country, but there is no easy solution, of course, for all of the people who are here now.
Yeah, that's true. But, I mean, what we have to look at is our provincial government works in conjunction with the federal government to establish those immigration numbers. And as we know, our premier decided that he wanted to double the population.
Right.
And actually wanted to triple the population.
So and we're going to have to go for a news break here quickly, but what would you do right now about this particular issue?
Well, I think that they need to the three levels of government need to come to an understanding. Just a few numbers. In 2023, 33,200 people, according to CMHC, came to Nova Scotia. At the same time, only 2,800 residential units were built.
Right.
And that works out to 12 people per unit.
So you want some balance between the people who are coming in and the infrastructure being created.
There needs to be an agreement, because HRM is going to be overwhelmed with cost.
What district are you running in, Mr. Holden, please?
13.
District 13. All right, we appreciate your call here today. We are out of time. We're going to have to move along. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Back with more here on the Todd Veinotte Show.
Thanks.
Just after 10:30, and we're here with council candidates on the hot seat. Joining me now, I believe, David Hensby, you are the longest-serving member of Halifax Regional Council. Am I right about that?
That is correct, sir.
You were just a boy. What was it, 1999? No, that was the legislature.
1993, November 8th, 1993, was the by-election in Halifax County. The last Halifax County councillor still serving on the Super City HRM Council.
You keep winning. Is at what point, and I should ask others this, but as the longest-serving councillor, you can tell me, at what point does a long resume on council become more of a liability than an asset?
I believe the experience counts in regards to know how the municipal government works, and also trying to get projects done in rural communities or any district. It takes time and planning to get them through the bureaucracy, I guess you can say, and get them higher on the priority list. Mm-hmm. Like, for instance, the Eastern Shore Lifestyle Center in Sheet Harbor, funding was announced about 7 years ago, and we're just getting to the stage of the blueprints. And the biggest thing now is we want to see that project finished.
Sure. That is, David, the argument in favor of experience. What about the argument in favor of change?
Well, I think the problem with change, though, is that how much of a learning curve that new person is going to have to take to get familiar with the job. Mm-hmm. What opportunities they're going to be missing because they're not familiar with the territory or the issues at hand or the processes to get them done. So it's a difficult opportunity. I had the fortunate experience to work as an executive assistant to an MLA, so I got to know how the government worked before I became elected. Mm-hmm. So I had that advantage for me. But as a new person, I think it'd be very difficult for them to learn the ropes in a short period of time.
What do you consider to be the principal issue in this election campaign? I mean, we talk a lot about homelessness, which we know is an issue, the housing problem. There are so many issues that are in orbit around those. What is the central issue so far as you're concerned in your district?
Well, in the rural areas, we're concerned about transportation. I'm looking forward to this joint regional transportation authority that's been established by the government. I want to bring back the idea of the rural express services along the 100 series highway. So I have 3 interchanges at Mineville, East Chesapeake, and Muscatine Harbor that could benefit having a park and ride terminal that we have currently at Porter's Lake. Mm-hmm. We also have, the Main Street widening and left turning lane. Maybe it's not districts in District 4, but it's a gateway to my Eastern Shore area. So we need to make sure that road gets widened. And the Ross Road realignment has been talked about for a number of years. We finally have a purchase agreement to hopefully in hand very soon. Just got to seal the deal, I guess you could say, sign. And once we get that corridor acquired, we can look at the design and get that dangerous intersection corrected. But also we're looking at the 207 highway, getting that repaired from Robinson Road to Mineville Road and widened as well, because we're looking at trying to make our roadways safer. Plus we have a number of recreation projects that are on the go. But one of the unique issues I have is with the new high school being going in the East Chesapeake Industrial Park is what's going to happen to the future of the Eastern Shore District High School.
And what should happen to it, David?
I'm hoping that it become a community hub. I'd like to have our HRM library and HRM fitness center move into the school, keep the gym as a community gym, and work with perhaps Nova Scotia Community College and utilize the industrial arts and the science labs as skills training opportunities for carpentry, plumbers, and medical lab technicians. So those are things we're kind of hoping for. Is any additional capacity in the building, maybe convert those classrooms into some seniors apartments as well.
All right. Obviously, you're looking to get reelected in your district. But let me ask you, before I let you go, as an old hand at politics, do you have a candidate in the race for mayor? Do you have a favorite?
I prefer to see Pam win. I think Pam is the only voice in the county. We had Walter Fitzgerald for Halifax. We had Savage for Dartmouth. We had Peter Kelly for Bedford. Time for a county representative to be in the chair seat, and I believe Pam is that current person. So I also want to remind people that tomorrow the electronic voting starts at 8 o'clock in the morning. I had the opportunity to deliver 11,500 brochures. They should be in people's mailboxes today with all my campaign information and literature there. But advanced voting online starts tomorrow, 8 o'clock.
Good reminder. Thank you, David Hensby.
Thank you.
Have a great day today. And that is a very, very good reminder. The early voting does begin as early as tomorrow, and there are really so many ways to vote. You can vote online. You can vote by telephone. You can also go to an advance poll, and you can wait till Election Day and vote the old-fashioned way. But the point is, there are no real impediments to voting because you can use so many media in which to do it. This is Council Candidates on the Hot Seat. We have a couple of lines available right now, 902-405-6000, open to anybody, all 79 of you who are running for seats on Halifax Regional Council or for the mayoralty. We have 3 mayoralty candidates on hold right at the moment. We're going to begin with Andrew Goodsell. Hello, Andrew.
Hey, how's it going today?
Going well. How are you?
Hoping it doesn't rain on me.
We probably could use a little rain. It looks a little chancy out here from the ninth floor.
We definitely need the rain,
Yep.
But when you're in my situation, I assure you it's devastating. Let it rain at night when I'm sleeping.
I can certainly identify with that problem. Yes, sir. We all know what it's like to be rained upon when we don't wish to be. How's it going out there for you?
I'd like to think it's going absolutely amazing. I already see me climbing the poles, and considering how I'm using up a busted phone to talk to you right now and some sidewalk chalk and just merit and heart, I think I'm making strides.
And what are you telling people when they ask you why you're running for mayor?
Straight out that, you said it, all right? A couple of the big guns haven't called you yet. I think that's because they're afraid to talk to the people. And I'm all about talking to the people of all wakes of life. And I think that resonates so well with so many people that they want someone that's going to voice for everybody.
For people who are not familiar with your background and situation, why don't you give us a quick overview?
Oh, yeah. Currently, I find myself unhoused, crawling in and out of a tent because I am a low-wage worker. I've officially come a long time ago to realize that I was going to need public housing to live in this world we're currently in, and it was never available. It didn't seem to matter that if I showed them how much I was working, what my pay was, they were like, no, you are never going to get this, Andrew, because you're a man between the ages of 26 and 65, and there's no help for anyone in that age group if you're at all capable. I put quotations around that.
What is the answer, not just for people who are in your situation and in your demographic, but what do you see as the answer to the larger question and the larger issue of homelessness and what we do about it?
The ultimate solution. The only solution is for us as a people to stand together and realize that public housing is the answer. It's the real affordability. The more of it we produce, the harder it is going to be for the private sector to overcharge everybody, because the reality is that I've got families coming to me telling me that they are stressed out. They're worried about their future. This affordability crisis, this housing crisis is not my demographic, the homeless. It is every minimum wage worker. It is every 2 family minimum wage workers. Mm-hmm. If you're on the lower end of things, your life is at risk right now. Your mental health is being destroyed, and you are doing everything in your power just to survive. We're not living it anymore. We are just trying to survive.
So your suggested solution is municipally built and managed public housing. Do I understand that correctly?
Well, I actually believe that once the municipality stands, if you vote me in, and I actually make it, this is the voice of the entire municipality saying, we need this. And what's that going to do? That's going to get the province on our side, because the bureaucrats can't fight for what we're not fighting for. I'm fighting for public housing. I know we can work together. The human race is magical and amazing. I know that most of us love everyone, and we can get on the ball with this. But I do believe that we got to lead the way. We got to set the example, and we have to stop saying it can't be done.
Andrew Goodsell, candidate for mayor. Thanks for calling 95.7 today. Appreciate it.
Much love. Thank you. Have a great day.
You as well. And we have lines open and time available here at 902-405-6000. It's council candidates on the hot seat. We're taking a break now. We continue with the council candidates right after the break. There are just shy of 80 names on the ballots for the municipal election on the 19th of October. We have 16 people running for mayor of this municipality, 63 candidates running for 16 council seats. And by the way, a race in every district, no acclamations, which is a good thing for democracy. Every seat contested. We want to know who all of you are and where you are and why you're running and what you want to accomplish on council. If you're an incumbent, you have a record. If you're challenging an incumbent, tell us why. If you're running in one of the districts where there is no incumbent, well, tell us why you're the right person to sit on council. We still have a few more minutes for you. Last council candidates on the hot seat before the election. Lines now at 902-405-6000. Alex Andreas is a candidate for mayor. Why are you running?
Well, I think I've already explained that on previous calls, and so if anyone's interested, they can go to my platform at imforchange.com. And Steve, I want to say thank you to you, Todd, and Vanessa, and the rest of the team that's allowed this platform to happen. And I wish special luck for all the candidates. I do have a quick little announcement of what I'm going to be offering. Basically, some of the students already know in the city that if elected mayor, I will be dedicating $10,000 to a student initiative. Basically, I donate to a student for every year or to the students in general to help them be more part of the city decision-making process. And also, if elected mayor, I will be taking sorry, I'm in isolated area here.
Okay.
I will be taking a pay salary decrease for the first year, and then it'll be reviewed to possibly a salary freeze for the mayor itself in general.
So you're proposing to use some of your salary as mayor to get students involved. How would you get them involved? How would the money get them involved?
No, it's a good question. So basically, what's come up with questions is that a lot of students have been wondering, like, well, we've never had a voice. We've tried, and it's never worked. So what I would like to do is actually do almost like a council session itself with all the community colleges and universities, so they have a representative that they vote themselves. And then, of course, once a month or bi-monthly, they'll have a platform where they can actually discuss things and then bring forth to the council, the concerns and stuff like that. And then also.
So you're talking about almost a community council of students.
Yeah, I think there's value in that. I mean, we have the highest per capita of students in all of Canada in a small area. About 80,000 students come in every year. So I think there's value in that, and they need to be a part of the community itself.
That's an interesting idea. And why are you going to take a pay cut beyond the symbolism involved? What does taking a pay cut really accomplish?
You know what? With my policies, with my plan, I do plan on creating new policies. I've actually talked to some developers and some individuals, and they were like, well, what are you going to give back? You've never taken this spot. And I used to serve the charter and also enforce the regulations, so I do understand how things work. And I think I need to earn my spot. And so I'm asking the municipality to allow me to do that. And so in return, I'm going to take a pay cut in that salary if I can, depending on how it's supposed to be spent. I don't know how much I can do, but because I don't know what my responsibilities will be with that pay cut. But I don't need $200-something thousand to live off of. Like at the end of the day, to me, it's a little ridiculous to have that much for a mayor that's just doing that one position, who's really just a vote and also playing a part of the community. Now, I know that you have to volunteer a lot of your time with the community and stuff, but that's something I always enjoy doing anyways.
All right. These are interesting ideas, Alex. Good luck to you. You remind us of your website, if you would, please.
Yes, imforchange.com. And if you just go to Google, you can Google Alex Andreas Halifax, and you'll find everything coming up there.
That's a great address to get. Well done. Thank you, sir. Alex Andreas, candidate for mayor, wants to take a pay cut. It's interesting to me. We spend a lot of time talking about whether politicians are overpaid. Maybe we could get into this in the open hour today, if you're interested, because I think there is a perception that politicians at all levels are probably overpaid. And, it's also a very difficult thing to determine what to pay a politician, because if the politicians decide themselves, they're accused of course, having a conflict of interest. If they defer the decision to a third-party group, which has been done in this province before, then we hear that they're passing the buck and they're not taking responsibility for their salaries. So my question to you is, what should politicians be paid and who should decide? What's a good politician worth? I can hear you all laughing. Good politician. Oxymoron. No, there are lots of good politicians. And the ones who are doing a good job are probably not overpaid. Because the politicians who are doing a good job are doing a lot more than showing up for council meetings and committee meetings and legislature meetings. They're involved with their constituents and they're involved in community events. And many of these people are spending a great deal of what we would consider to be their private time in pursuit of public interests. Now, you might disagree. In fact, this is a program built on disagreement. So if you'd like to disagree, let's disagree civilly here at 11 o'clock in the open hour. at 405-6000. Jim Hoskins, we know you're running for mayor. You're one of the big four or big five. I see you've kind of slipped down in the latest poll. You're now running number 5. You buy that?
I am running. Oh, what poll's that, Steve?
This is MQO, which is the latest poll. It has, I think Darrell Johnson has just slipped ahead of you.
Yeah, false news.
Well, I'm only telling you what's in the poll. I'm not necessarily endorsing it. I'm simply telling you what's in it.
Yeah, that's okay. I just got to keep my wipers on for the leaflets that are falling on my car from Andy Fillmore's latest advertising.
What exactly do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, he's got signs everywhere, so I'm just making a little joke to try to get some humor. I couldn't care less about the advertising. But I wanted to tell you that the two councillors at our last debate that you moderated failed to mention the fact that they moved forward on a $15 million bike lane and a traffic change down in the South End, particularly University Avenue. They failed to mention that Wednesday night. They knew about it Tuesday because they passed it when you asked a specific question about bicycle lanes.
Yes.
So they're obviously more interested in bicycles than they are the homeless. So I want to make that quite clear.
Just to be clear on this point, though, and I heard Councillor Lovelace call Dan here the other day to clarify that they haven't decided to go ahead with the spending. They have just decided not to stop it. So in other words, they're taking another look at it, is my understanding.
Well, Steve, I'll have to say that I read that whole document, and I can tell you right now, if you read it,
yes,
it's definitely a go-ahead. It's definitely a go-ahead document, and to say that it's not is erroneous.
All right.
So you just have to read the document, okay?
Well, you've got the advantage. You've read the document. I haven't.
Oh, I have. I read it. Believe me, and it's a typical council resolution to move forward on that. So, but what I'm trying to explain is that their thinking is about the bicycle lanes and traffic, and not the homeless as they keep pushing forward. The other thing is that if I'm the longest as far as mayor goes, candidate. I'm the only candidate that has served the city of Halifax, in particular now HRM. For 36 years, I've ran 5 times. This is my 5th time, so I know politics.
Yeah,
and I don't know the victory of the thrill of victory, but I can tell you, I'm out here walking in Dartmouth today. I know the agony of defeat.
Of defeat,
so
yes.
I'm going to keep doing that.
Defeat and the feet, pardon? I suppose. Why do you keep running, Jim? I mean, five defeats might deter or discourage another candidate, but not you.
Not me, because I've been doing this ever since I retired. I'm a public servant in my DNA. I've got the longest, if you want to say, people approach in the trenches. I'm not sitting behind the desk, and I've devoted most of my adult life to the people. But I can tell you, as a former high school football coach, the game is not over until final whistle, and I'm going to keep going at it until we see where we go. Polls are great if they're in your favor, so I can't comment on them because I'd rather be in first place. But anyway, having said that, I'll keep trucking away.
One thing before you go, and I'm not trying to suggest that it isn't over until it's over. I mean, it is always important to wait till the end. The polls, however, do suggest that Mr. Fillmore has what might be described, in fact, it has been described as a pretty insurmountable lead, an overwhelming lead among all of you.
I coached high school football and Bantam football. We won the championship, Nova Scotia, undefeated years ago, and I'm taking that position. The voters will decide on the 19th, and Fillmore can have all the lead he wants. But until that final whistle blows, Jim is out there.
Thanks, Jim. Jim Hoskins, candidate for mayor here on 95.7 News Radio. We've heard from a lot of the candidates for mayor. I don't know if we've heard from all of them because, well, I do know we haven't heard from Mr. Fillmore. And we still have about 2 or 3 minutes if Mr. Fillmore wants to call. My point is that when you're a front runner, you can have the luxury of what is called the front runner campaign, which in this town might mean you don't come on talk radio and take part in a discussion like this. But we have heard from Councillor Lovelace today and Mr. Hoskins. He's tried to be a councillor. We haven't heard from Mr. Mason. We haven't heard from Mr. Fillmore. They are perceived, and in fact, it's more than a perception. The polling does suggest that they are running basically 1-2 or 1-3 among all of the 16 candidates. Something I'd like to get into in the next hour with you, if you're interested, is why are so many people unable to name even one candidate for mayor? We've got 16 people running, including a former member of Parliament, 2 members of the current council, others who are well known across the community, and yet fully 25%, or about half, I guess, about half of the people who were questioned by MQO in their recent panel are not able to name even one candidate for mayor. What does that say, if anything? And it does bring me back to the question that we kicked around here very enthusiastically about 3 weeks ago, and that is, why don't people vote? Because some of the people who don't know who the candidates are likely the folks who aren't going to vote. And I do come back to the question of, why do people decide? Why do they choose not to vote? What message are they trying to send? What message are they actually sending? One of the subjects we can tackle here in the next hour of the broadcast. 902-405-6000. If you need to use a toll-free option, it's 877-801-8255. If you can hear us, you can call us, and we won't charge any money. Well, actually, I won't charge any money. Dan Alstrand won't charge any money. Rogers Broadcast, it's a free call. It's free speech in every respect. The Open Hour, Open Phones Halifax, coming up next.